We're going to discuss a little bit of history just to put things into context. Uh, we're talking about basically the Iron Age. Um, Money was invented about 800 BC, and that was in the beginning of the Iron Age. Rome was founded shortly thereafter, and money came to dominate the institutions of the Roman Empire to the point that moneylenders were charging upwards of 48% interest and basically choking out any sort of innovation in the economy except for the army. And eventually the army became the only growth industry in Rome, and thus eventually caused Rome to change from being a republic to being an empire. Empire comes from Roman words that talk about the field, and the emperor is the field marshal. So you can see that Rome was basically a military government when it became an empire. Of course, Rome expanded and collected taxes from basically whoever was nearby, and that included the Middle East and especially Egypt. Egypt was very important because Egypt had a surplus of grain, which the Romans needed to feed the Roman people and keep them from overthrowing their government. So Egypt was important to Rome, and of course, if you're traveling overland by Egypt, you go through the Middle East to get there. Otherwise, you travel by ship. So, there was a revolt in Rome by the Spartacists, that was put down by a fellow by the name of Crassus. And Crassus was a rich man who was a Roman triumvir, but did not have the prestige and status of Julius Caesar and Pompey. So he decided that he was going to become a real general by mounting a campaign against the Parthians and defeating them. And on his way, he stopped off in Jerusalem and looted the temple in that city, and then went to meet the Parthians in the field and really suffered a terrible defeat. Crassus was killed along with his son. They lost 2 eagles, and the Romans got a very bad taste in their mouth about that temple. Later on, King Herod decided to rebuild the temple, and part of his agenda was to make it so that Romans could offer sacrifices in the temple so that God would be on the side of the Romans going forward. After Julius Caesar was assassinated, one of the assassins came over to the Parthian side and returned with a Parthian army and occupied the Middle East for about a year until the Romans got their act together and started sending legions to the area, and then the Parthian army went back home again. So you never heard about this because there were no big battles, but that was sort of setting the stage for people's expectations about how likely it was that the Roman oppression could be overthrown, especially since the Jewish people had this tradition that King Cyrus the Great established the kingdom of Judah, and he was called the Messiah. So, there was a lot going on there. There were many, many different revolts against the Jews. If you read the works of Josephus Flavius, he goes into a lot of those. And in particular, it seems that he associates that with the group called Essenes, who were basically sponsoring the Zealots. It's sort of like Sinn Féin in Ireland and their relationship with the IRA. And so there was a lot going on at the time. When Jesus came along, everyone pretty much agrees that the governor of Judah at the time was Pontius Pilate, and so that pretty much nails down where and when these events happened. But there's a lot of things that were sort of mixed together later on. The Romans finally did destroy the temple in AD 70 because the Jews continued to resist allowing the Romans to worship there. And then there was another destruction of the kingdom of Judah in AD 135, and that's the beginning of the Diaspora because Jews were no longer allowed to live in that part of the world. The Diaspora was actually one of the things that kicked off creating the Christian scriptures. So this all ties together. This is the whole scenario in which we are looking at how these scriptures came to be.